thinking of all my fellow veterans, including myself. So I'm enjoying this wonderful Wednesday hump day. So going through that as well.
Yeah, it's well. First of all, happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service, you and
Thank
all
you.
of those who have served us. I'm very proud to now. I guess I'm from Fayetteville now. I mean, I've been here a decade, so it's a really unique community to be in and serve because of the connection to Bragg, and I'm just really proud to be here and glad to know people like you. And I gotta say, holidays in the
Stop!
middle of the week are
Stop!
a little
Stop! Don't
funny.
do that! Don't do that! Don't do that! I'm happy to know people like you too. Like it's funny because I've been so it's been a lot of artists this week. I didn't mean to cut you off. It's been a lot of artists this week that've been showing appreciation for so many artists here in this area. So to keep hearing people like say they're appreciative for something I'm doing, to me it's just like I think everybody should be doing it. So to me it's like it's not to me it's not, and I'm not trying to downplay myself. It's just like I feel as artists it should always be one of those things that's reciprocal. But I can also understand too that a lot of artists don't think like how we do. So I get that as well.
Well, we're supposed to think differently. I mean, that's our job. So we're as long as you're doing it, I'm happy.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I appreciate, but I'm appreciative of you. I appreciate as artists as you too. Like I said, like even with everything that you guys have done since I've heard of Sweet Tea Shakespeare and been able to check out a few of the events y'all do, it's always been a blessing just to see the arts live. And I appreciate it tremendously that y'all are a part of this community in Fayetteville, North Carolina, or just North Carolina in general.
Yeah, it's a good. It's we just love doing what we do. That's what I'll say. And the other thing I was going to say is like I'm happy for holidays midweek. Like anytime. Federal government, if you're listening, just schedule some more midweek. Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all good by me.
Yes.
All right, so what you got going on, man?
Oh man, so it's a lot going on, but what I'm going to do is just talk about one of the main things that's happening, which will be this Friday. So this Friday, we're doing an event at Detour Coffee House known as 310, a dramatic book sign. I mean, dramatic book reading. So I'm going to go ahead and do shameless plug. This is the flyer right here. So this is definitely the flyer.
I'm on it.
But
Look at that. It's almost
yeah,
as though
you're
we
on it.
set this
I'm
up.
going to get to that. I'm going to
That's
get to
right.
it. So it's been a blessing. So I'll make the story real quick. So I came up with this book idea after a conversation me and my wife had. So it started from a couple of things. It started from a 30 for 30 project that I started with some of my friends from the Raleigh Durham area. So every year we get together and we have our own like separate project we do for April, which is National Poetry Month. So you have to write 30 poems within 30 days. So during that time of the project, I took it upon myself just to test the limits of my creativity. And I grabbed a book that my wife had bought me on a day we did like a I don't want to say it was a cheap date, but it was like this kind of metric thing we had. Like if you want to do a date, do you want to spend money or don't spend money? And then you go through the whole chart or the diagram, and it's like go to a bookstore. So we went to Barnes and Noble, and we ended up getting books for each other. And she ended up getting me this book on life hacks. It's 1,000 life hacks that's in the book. So with the project, I ended up starting to write a poem based off a life hack I read, whether the poem is about the life hack in a sense, or use that life hack to give a broader scope on a lot of stuff going on within the world. So the title 310 came from me waking up like literally maybe 4 to 6 days in a row, waking up at 3:10 in the morning. And I had told my wife this when I was waking up. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I was saying, I've done it again. I keep waking up at 3:10, so obviously that means something. Like I can't make this up. Like my wife was in this room right now. She was telling you this whole story, and she was like, "Well, maybe you need to go sit in the kitchen, talk to God, and see what that means." So I sat and prayed on it, and then I was like, "Well, let me go ahead and just look up some Bible verses." And there was numerous Bible verses, whether it be the third chapter, first 10, that stood out at certain points in my life. Let alone those numbers just kind of define a lot of scenarios in my life. I'm the middle child of three children on my mom's side. I have three sons. My oldest son was born July 3rd. My youngest son was born April 3rd. Both of their birthdays are 3 years, 3 months, 3 days, 3 years and 3 months apart, but they both were born on the third day. My basketball number in high school was three. It's like a lot. Like I can go through the whole scope how all those numbers add up to 310, but we don't got the time like that. So that's how the book came to be. As far as the event, I released the book actually on October 3rd, so 310. So when I ended up releasing the book and doing a book signing, one of the people that's actually going to be performing on the event with yourself as well, Ricardo Morgan, came to the book signing, and we were just having a general talk. And he was like, "Are you going to do anything else with the book?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to plan a book reading. I want to do a book reading regardless, because for some funny reason, even though I said that it was a book signing that I did, there were people expecting me to do a book reading when I was like, I just said book signing. That's it. So I knew a book reading was going to come eventually. But he was like, yeah, it'll be good. It'll be a great idea though. And I was like, what's up? And he was like, well, wouldn't it be a great idea if you got together with some of your theater friends to see if they would want to be a part of this project? And then he was like, even though it sounds good, you have to make sure they understand the polls and that you are trusting them to take your babies basically and do their own like dramatic spin on reading the poems. And I was like, I'll think about it. So after thinking about it, I reached out to Ricardo, I reached out to you, I reached out to Serena Johnson, and I reached out to Sonny Kelly. All of y'all phenomenal artists and stage actors, theater actors in your own writing. If people don't know about y'all, they shouldn't know about y'all. I'm going to put that out there now. And I brought the idea to you guys saying, hey, this is an idea that came from Ricardo, and I want to know if you guys would like to be a part. Now, granted, I want y'all to pick what poems y'all want to read, and I want y'all to have the liberty to interpret it the way you want to interpret it. And the blessing was all you guys wanted to do the project, so we put this idea together. And on Friday at Detour Coffee House at 8 p.m., we will be doing 310, a dramatic book reading with poems written by me from my book and performed by yourself, Serena Johnson, Tony Kelly, and Ricardo Morgan.
I'm looking forward to it. I love those three. I've known Ricardo, I think, since I got to town. Basically, he is an FSU Bronco, and a one-time product of our department. And we just run into each other all over the place, including at several Cape Fear Regional Theater shows. Serena's worked with us many times, and I know Sonny from everywhere. But he was actually on the Sweet Tea stage a few years ago. He was in our production of Measure for Measure, and Serena's there all the time. I mean, she just does all kinds of stuff with us. So that's cool. I'm really excited.
I'm excited too. Like I had numerous people ask me about this event, and they were telling me what's the most exciting part about this event. I was like, not knowing how the actors are going to portray these poems, like do these poems. Like I'm excited because I get to see this from the lens of a fan, because I'm a fan of everybody's work as a part of it. And it's one thing when you write something and you know how it sounds in your head. That's one thing. But to hear other people interpret it in the way they see it, I think that's like, it's one of those things where it's like it's you're on pins and needles, because you're wondering how the product's going to be, but you also know that you're entrusting these people to put the work forward that you know you would. So I'm excited for it, and I get to see it. Like it's a blessing. Like I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared and nervous, but I know it's gonna be good. I'm scared in a great way, not like it's gonna bomb. I know it's not gonna bomb. God already ordained this to be a great event. So
Yeah, I've enjoyed. So when we were sort of settling on this project, I think you sent me a copy, and I was like, it was tough for me to pick. I mean, I was like, I got to pick three, and I was like, this is. So for those folks who are out there who don't know the work, could you describe? So you've given us like a general sense of how it works, but can you describe sort of what they're picking up, should they want to buy a copy?
yeah. So okay. So I'll kind of give you a scenario of one particular poem, and the and this is the reason why like this book is unique in its own way. So there is a book. So this book itself, one, you're getting poems. If you're a fan of poetry, anything of that nature, then yes, this is going to be a great book. If you are a fan of life hacks, then you're getting an aspect of a life hack, and you're getting another free life hack that can help out in life. I think the creativity part comes in when you combine a life hack with a poem. So, for example, there's a life hack that I wrote that says if you ever go to the zoo and the animals are following you around, it's probably because you're wearing the same colors that the zookeepers wear. So the animals are going to associate you with being the zookeepers. Like, even if you're not considered part of them, they're thinking that you are just because of the colors you wear. But the spin I put on that was how the black community that I'm a part of, been a part of my whole life. Oh, we have to, in this day and age, when we're out, we have to look at what's going to happen at us every time we get pulled over for a traffic stop. Even if there's nothing wrong, even if we're abiding by the law, we have that fear that something may happen to us because we're driving while black. So the association to that life hack in life is that even though there have been people on the bad end of police brutality doing the things that they do, there's always some good cops. But for our lands, the main focal land, it's hard for us to see that when we keep seeing more of this. So that's the association with that life hack and the poem that comes with it. Because we're seeing the police officers in most situations how the animals will see people that wearing the same color as the zoo, even though you're not part of that. You can be seen as that because they're trained on what they base it on what they know. So
Yeah, I would say so. A lot of these pieces are kind of like that, right? They start small and specific, and by the time you get to the end of them, they've sort of unlocked something a little more universal. I would is the way I would put it, right? So
yeah,
they're trying to transcend, even though they start with a sort of specific, sometimes even sort of mundane or straightforward life hack, like it gets converted, over the course of the poem into something that can apply to a much larger circumstance.
yeah, definitely. And it is like it's been a challenge, like to even put this together because to go back through them and then of course fine tune them and then add more to it. Like there's some I won't get into detail, but there's some poems. The unique thing with this particular book is almost like it's the most. This is probably the most therapeutic book written to date, poetry wise. What I mean by that is because the last time I came out with a book, a full poetry book, was 13 years ago with 310. I told you this is crazy how I put something together. Because the last two books I did before this book were like poetry chat books, so there were only like maybe 10 poems in it, and that's it. So to put more poems to it and then take a broader theme as to just putting a collection of poems together and just putting it out there and it goes everywhere as saying this is the theme for this book I want to have. It it was therapeutic and it was like I said, it was a challenge just trying to do it. It was a challenge trying to be creative with the process because as an artist you want to be you always want to push yourself. Like I try not to give myself a ceiling because I feel like if I give myself I'm gonna become stagnant, and I'm not gonna want to try to reach any further than what I do. Then let alone just there's a good amount of poems in there that's personal. So I think that's one of the things that makes this project a little more to the heart, and then especially come Friday because I know for a fact I think out of the 10 poems I think it is collectively all together, I think 3 to 4 of them may be very personal, and I don't know people are gonna. I don't know how people are gonna. I think people will understand it, but I don't think people are gonna be ready for it because a lot of stuff you don't hear from. Like so, I think that's the good reason why one you should get the book, but then two, understanding that everybody everybody has a history, and I think with this book it kind of helps shed a little light on stuff I've been through, but also let everybody know I'm okay.
That's good. Well, I'll tell you one of the reasons I'm looking forward to this is that, well, I think this will be almost 2 years. In fact, I think it's like 2 months short of 2 years since I like have taken a stage like in any real sense. So
Oh
I'm
wow.
looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to the even though we've got to sort of worry about COVID numbers these days, I'm looking
Oh
forward to
yeah.
being back in a room that is like a live performance venue, because those are few and far between, and of course this one will be sort of safe and minimal, but I'm looking forward to being back in that setting with other artists. I mean, it's something I miss very much these days, and that's something I'm looking forward to very much.
Yeah, definitely. The biggest thing was just making sure we were able to pull this event off because at the end of the day, COVID is still around, and we're in a phase where event venues, in a sense, are able to do events as long as it's within the CDC guidelines and at a certain capacity. So I know we got questions today actually about where we still have an event because I know Governor Roy Cooper just kind of put out a few more guidelines. Again, even though we're still in phase three, kind of restricted some guidelines, but we're in a space where I don't want to say it operates in a gray area, but it's considered a multi-purpose venue. So there's things they can still do, and this event being one of them. And just from our end, as far as us putting it together, we're making sure we go by CDC guidelines. So there will be social distancing when it comes to the seating. There will be temperature checks. So if you come in, you're getting your temperature checked. I know that if you are coming into the event, you have to have a mask. The only time the mask can come off your face while we're doing the event has to be for eating and drinking. And I know some people may find that hard to deal with, but at the same time, this just keep everybody safe because I want to get to that place where we can all not have to wear masks, not have to worry about the invisible enemy creeping over our shoulder, raining stripes. I want to get back to that point, but just for the time being, this is the guidelines that we have to go through. But at the same time, we're able to at least have a physical event in a venue space, even if the space is limited, we're still able to have it. And like you were saying, the fact that a lot of us artists have been missing the stage, I think, is just a blessing to give not only the artists an avenue to try to get back on stage, but also give people that appreciate people performing on stage that type of event as well within what's happening within the country.
Yeah, I would say so. My brain goes to weird places. I mean, I'm one of the things I am. One of the hats I wear, I guess, is that I'm a theater historian, and so in dealing with Shakespeare, I'm looking back at the time period and seeing all the times that they had to close their theaters because there was the plague. And what's really interesting
Yeah,
then is like the big venues they closed up, but the little venues and specifically poetry writing, that's when those took off. I mean, that's when those like littler things that they could manage, or publications. So I'm just seeing connections all over the place there. It's a different kind of connection, but one of the things I'm really excited about is like um, the ability to sort of celebrate this kind of work, like original work, new work, and do it in an intimate setting. I mean, one of the things I like is like the rooms that feel like your living room, and these people are right in front of you, and it sounds like that's what this event is shooting for. So I'm looking forward to it. Can you?
and yeah, I really want it to be that. I really want it to be like so, like interpersonal, and that people understand what's happening with it. But then I also know that with everything that's happening, we don't know we don't know what's going to happen like day in day out, and I'm hoping we don't regret because at the end of the day, I don't think a lot of places, including art venues, can take another hit like we did at the beginning of this year. It's becoming very it's a much needed avenue for people that enjoy the arts, and it's kind of hard. And this isn't downplaying anything because I have the virtual events I do too, but I think we're at a point now where people, and I've been hearing it lately, have been having what's known as pandemic fatigue. So they're craving to get out to these like events where they can kind of be um, there in the theater in the audience listening to what's going on. And as for us, the event planners, I think the hard task for us is to make sure that we're going by the guidelines because even though we are going by the guidelines, we have to make sure the people are following them because if the people don't follow them, then that makes it makes a snowball effect. It makes the situation even harder for us to get these back off the ground. If we get set back, then it becomes difficult. And then we have virtual events And I think people are like, they love the virtual events, but I know some people are probably like, okay, getting to that point now. I need to get out there. Like, I love this theater performance. I love watching it from my home, but I really want to be there now. And
Mm-hmm.
it's always a hard toss up to talk about these things. I'm very optimistic, and I'm looking forward to more things happening. And I'm also I'm prayed up to make sure that people do the right thing. I do not need another venue or anything else to close the house. So that's why we need to make these things happen and
I
just
hear you.
follow God.
Yeah, I hear you. So, can you tell us how we can obtain tickets if we are interested?
Yes, to obtain tickets, you can go to there's an Eventbrite page. The Eventbrite page is the number 310 book reading eventbrite.com. That's 310 bookreading.eventbrite.com. And I do want to say this, please, 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 please. It is, I don't know, and maybe it's just me, but or maybe it's just the area. It's funny because I know we try to do advanced ticket sales for this event, and I always have a lot of people who come the day of, and I know because of the pandemic and everything that's going on, there's very limited seating. And I don't, and what I don't want to happen is people try to come without paying, like getting the ticket online, and we're at capacity. And there's a chance that may happen. So the best way to know that you're getting a guaranteed seat is to go to the site 310 book reading at eventbrite.com, purchase you a ticket. That way we know that you got a guaranteed seat because there's that possibility that we may run out of capacity. There is a possibility because I know I've invited folks. I know the artists that are performing are inviting folks to come out to support them and what they're doing. And like I said, we may run out of capacity. Like I said, we only have 50 seats, maybe possibly 60. It's a chance you may come through the door and you may not get in. That's not it's a good thing and it's a bad thing because that's why because you try to get tickets the day of, but we're booked capacity because of the CDC regulations. So
That's one of the things
three
I'll
ten.
say is like having these small audiences, like you sell out quickly, so it looks good at least.
I know. So, but yeah, by all means, guys, 310bookreading.eventbrite.com. We'll love to have you there. Once again, just let y'all know you're going to be safe. We are doing temperature checks. We will have hand sanitizer. We will have the seats socially distanced. If for any reason you don't have a mask, we will have a few masks we can give out while the supplies last. But we definitely want you guys to come support the venue and then just come rock out and enjoy a good show. Like I said, you got four fantastic actors that have done amazing things in their craft. And we're talking to one of them right now that is putting on this event. So if you're a fan of Sweet Tea Shakespeare, the man that normally puts these events together that you rarely don't see on stage, you can actually see him on stage this Friday. So
Yeah, I sometimes tell people I've retired from acting, but I will come out now and again for a special event, and this is certainly one of those. And I would just say, if you're out there and a coffee fan at all, Detour is a definite destination spot for coffee in this town. Um, uh, Fayetteville sometimes feels like a small town and sometimes feels like a city. And Detour coffee selections, I'm sort of a snob, are they're like the real deal. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and come on out and have some good time.
I blame anybody that's been in the military or stationed here. I blame the military for that when you first get stationed here and they tell you all the off limit places you can't go.
Yeah.
Because when you get out, you find out about everything else in the city that you didn't even know about.
Yep, I love it. We're actually, I mean, so we worked together back in February, I think, at Detour, and we've got another event coming up in December as well. So we just love that place, and I love the vibe,
Yeah.
and it's cool, and it's kind of, it sort of feels like it's in the country, even though it's got a Fayetteville address. So I
It's
like
that
it.
it's
It
that
feels like a
line.
little bit
It's
of an
that
escape. I mean, I live on the
mhm.
north side, so everything is like half an hour from me, no matter what. And that place certainly is. But it feels like an adventure, like I'm going on vacation. So I'm looking forward to that too.
It's funny because for me, for where I stay, I am literally between. If you go one direction, I cross over in Cumberland County. You cross back over the bridge in Hope County. If I go like 3 minutes up the road, then I'm in Robson County. So I'm like in the middle of three counties.
I love it. So
But
what
it's
else?
fun.
What after this? What you got going on? What are your plans in the next few months?
So we've been blessed to do pandemic actually is like it's a good and a bad thing. So we've been blessed to do a couple of events virtually. So we've done this event called the Ninja, the Nerd, and the Nubian, which is basically a full on nerd podcast type event where we talk about a lot of nerdy things. Like I think the last episode we did was a Halloween edition, and we invited this artist by the name of Lauren Lamel, who has a podcast known as Scary Crit, and she basically does horror. She talks about horror a lot, so we did a special Halloween edition, and with that went very well. But that whole show deals about we talk about anything dealing with TV shows, anime, cartoons, music. It's just whatever we consider nerdy at the given time. So that way we're not just kind of pigeonholed into one thing. So there may be the day we may say, hey, I may reach out to you like, hey, we need to talk about some Shakespeare. So that the possibilities are endless with that show. The other great event that we've created is an event called Art to Heart, where we literally have a 1 hour intimate conversation with artists of all mediums. So the first one we did was with Tony Todd. The second one we did was with a painter, HIV activist by the name of Stephanie Tough Love Brown. The one after that we did with Megan Hollingshed, which she was the original voice of Nurse Joy from Pokemon. And this month we'll be doing. His name is Greg G Money Johnson. He's actually the radio DJ for Foxy 99 here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. But he also has a podcast known as Smash the Mat podcast, which is very engulfed in wrestling, WWE, AEW, all the indie sites, and he's a professional wrestler too.
That's
so
awesome.
talking to an artist doing all of those things is going to be interesting. And we're lining up stuff for next year too. I know right now with the art, we start season 2 of Art to Heart, and we got Veronica Taylor, who is the original voice of Ash Ketchum, who's going to be our first guest. And we have a lot of artists that we're lining up for that. I'm praying that we're able to physically start back our Art Meets Life event here in Fayetteville, because the venue has basically been the venue that we do it at, which is the Sweet Palace, have actually been able to open up fully now. But we're waiting until January to start it back up just to keep things safe as far as in the downtown Fayetteville area, because they're a little bit more strict with certain things as to any other area. But other than that, waiting on the Comic Con scene to start back up so I can start getting back in the Comic Con scene with doing panels for them. Um, it's honestly there's few things I can book and there's few things that I'm trying to wait on because the world is still up in the air as far as for what I do, as far as like motivational speaking, as far as like being booked to do spoken word in different locations is really waiting to see what happens. I mean, we have people got fillers out saying they're ready to book me. They're just trying to see what's going on in the next few months. So
Yeah, I
we'll
hear
see.
you there. I'm able to work it like, yeah, about the farthest I can go is about 2 weeks out. I'm like, I can make plans for the next 2 weeks. I'm not sure about after that. That's kind of where I am right now. It's
Yeah,
definitely a different way to be, but something I appreciate. I mean, the one thing, I mean, COVID's a serious and deadly disease, but for those of us who have been fortunate enough to keep our health while this has gone on, there are some benefits in terms of staying present and staying home that I certainly appreciate. And I say that with all sensitivity to the folks who are suffering. I certainly get that, and certainly know folks who are, but there are parts of it that I'm grateful for, at least waking me up to. So yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. And the reason I say that is because there's been this whole. Me and my wife had this talk, and we said this at the end of December, beginning of January, before we knew any of this was going to before anybody knew all this was going to happen. We called year 2020 was like we call it. We said Bowens vision because we had a site as to where we was going to try to do this year. Like we literally had the whole first half a year booked out until everything happened. But the whole purpose of that was see things for how they need to be seen going into this year. And then you look at the grand plan of how everything happened with the coronavirus happening, the way people are treating it, the election that just recently happened, and you literally see people and things for how they are now because everything pretty much has got pushed to the forefront. And I know, like, I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for me that when it came to like relationships, a lot of relationships changed this year because of certain things, even with how it deals with the coronavirus, how it dealt with the elections, how it just dealt with any type of rhetoric. And I think it's bad that all this happened, but it's also a year of renewal in a sense because now you have to figure out the next steps going to next year because it may not even seem like it. The year is almost over.
Hmm.
It's it's November now, and you think we've been pretty much in the house quarantining and not doing much since March, and now we're trying to open up, and now it's like November, so it's like you think of all that's happened within then, and there's definitely been a shift. It's literally been a shift. It's like the world needed and it's I hate saying it. It's like the world needed a hard reset. Now, by all means, everybody that passed with coronavirus, I my heart and condolences go out to all the families because I've had folks that was affected by it too. And I think with the grand sense of how people are, how they treat people, I think the world needed a hard reset. I ain't saying like people need to go away for it to be a reset. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that how we look at people and how we look at the ideology, how we went on around in this world, that needed a hard reset so we can like start looking at each other and then figure out what's the next step to go from here.
Yeah, I'm right on board with you, and hopefully that reset continues. Some of us
Mm.
have been able to take advantage of it, and some of us still need some work. I hope that makes sense, and I hope it continues in that regard.
Yeah, some of us need a lot of it.
All right, man. Well, I'm excited to see you on Friday. Folks, as a reminder, there's book reading of LJ's book, 310. And I'm reading in it. I'm very excited to. He is Sonny Kelly, Ricardo Morgan, Serena Johnson. It's going to be a good time. 8 p.m. on Friday. You see the link on the screen. And so grab your tickets now while you still can. Limited seating and all of that. And it's just going to be a good time. And I'm excited to see you there.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see y'all there. Thank you once again for this awesome interview. I love Sweet Tea Shakespeare. I can't wait to you guys get back kicking because we still got tickets that we want to use. So we ready. We
Anytime.
ready. We ready when y'all ready. We ready when y'all ready.
All right. Thank you, sir. I'll see you.
No problem. Thank you. You
All
guys
right.
take care.
Bye, everybody.